The warm night air in Lisbon carried the scent of salt and intrigue as a sleek speedboat carved its way through the Tagus River. At the helm stood Duško Popov, a man whose charm was as legendary as his espionage skills. The year was 1941, and in his possession was a briefcase filled with $50,000 of Nazi money. But Popov was no loyal servant of Hitler's Reich. He was about to execute one of the most audacious intelligence operations of the war, a gamble that would not only deceive the Germans, but also help shape the course of history. His destination was the glittering Casino Estoril, the very place where he would inspire Ian Fleming's creation of James Bond. Yet, the reality of Popov's exploits far exceeded even the wildest imaginations of any spy novelist. Born in 1912 in Serbia, Dusko Popov came from a wealthy and influential family. His upbringing was one of privilege, refinement, and adventure. Fluent in multiple languages and educated in law, Popov had the perfect blend of intelligence and charm to navigate the dangerous world of espionage. His hatred for the Nazis was cemented during his studies in Germany, where he witnessed the rise of Hitler's regime and was briefly imprisoned for openly criticizing the Gestapo. This brush with authoritarian brutality fueled his desire to fight against the Third Reich in a most unconventional way. Popov's entry into the world of espionage was anything but ordinary. Recruited by the Abwehr, Nazi Germany's military intelligence agency, he was given the code name Ivan and tasked with gathering intelligence on the British. Little did his German handlers know he had already pledged his loyalty to Britain's MI6. The British intelligence agency welcomed Popov's services, granting him the code name Tricycle, reflecting his unique ability to serve three different interests: the British, the Germans, and his own calculated objectives. Popov's double agent status was invaluable, allowing the Allies to feed misinformation to the Nazis while extracting critical intelligence from within their ranks. One of Popov's greatest feats of deception came in the form of Operation Fortitude, the massive counterintelligence campaign designed to mislead the Germans about the D-Day landings. Popov played a crucial role in feeding false information, convincing the Nazis that the main invasion would occur in the Pas-de-Calais rather than Normandy. This ruse led to the Germans misallocating their defenses, ensuring the success of the actual Allied landings in June 1944. Before his involvement in Operation Fortitude, Popov had already proven himself to be one of the most daring spies in the war. His charisma and playboy lifestyle made him a fixture in elite social circles across Europe. He exploited this access to gather intelligence from high-ranking officials and businessmen who were unaware they were speaking to one of the most dangerous double agents of the war. In Lisbon, a neutral city teeming with spies from all sides, Popov thrived in a world of high-stakes gambling, luxurious parties, and whispered secrets exchanged over fine cigars and champagne. But Popov's most thrilling and potentially war-altering assignment came in August 1941 when the Germans sent him on a mission to the United States. Under the guise of collecting intelligence on American military capabilities, Popov was handed a list of targets by the Abwehr. Among them was a detailed questionnaire about Pearl Harbor, suggesting that the Nazis, and likely their Japanese allies, had a keen interest in the U.S. Pacific Fleet. Upon arriving in New York, Popov immediately relayed this alarming information to the FBI, urging them to take the threat seriously. However, his warnings fell on deaf ears. J. Edgar Hoover, the head of the FBI, dismissed Popov as an untrustworthy playboy more interested in womanizing than espionage. This grave miscalculation would later prove catastrophic when Japan launched its surprise attack on Pearl Harbor just months later, plunging the United States into World War II. Despite Hoover's skepticism, Popov continued his work as a double agent, playing a dangerous game of deception that required nerves of steel. His ability to maintain trust with the Germans while secretly aiding the British was nothing short of extraordinary. He cultivated relationships with high-ranking Nazi officials, feeding them carefully curated misinformation that shaped their strategic decisions. His charm and sophistication made him an unlikely but highly effective intelligence asset, proving that warfare was not always won on the battlefield, but often in the shadowy world of espionage. Popov's exploits in the war were not just a series of daring operations, they were instrumental in shaping the future of intelligence warfare. His ability to manipulate, mislead, and extract information demonstrated the power of psychological tactics in a conflict where information was as valuable as firepower. His story, filled with luxury, danger, and deception, eventually caught the attention of British naval intelligence officer Ian Fleming, who would later use Popov's experiences as inspiration for the character of James Bond. The legendary casino scene in Fleming's first Bond novel, Casino Royale, was directly influenced by Popov's high-stakes gamble at Casino Estoril, where he fearlessly bet Nazi money to send a message of defiance. As World War II drew to a close, Popov's role as a double agent ended, but his legend only grew. Unlike many spies whose lives ended in tragedy, betrayal, or anonymity, Popov lived well beyond the war, writing memoirs and sharing glimpses of his extraordinary adventures. His life was a testament to the power of wit, courage, and deception in the face of tyranny. The true story of Dusko Popov is one of unparalleled espionage, a thrilling narrative that proves reality can be stranger and more exhilarating than fiction. He was not just a spy, he was an artist of deception, a master of the double cross, and a man whose charisma and cunning changed the course of history. His legacy endures not only in the pages of history books, but in the very essence of the world's most famous fictional spy. Yet, for those who know the truth, Popov remains the ultimate original, a real-life James Bond whose greatest mission was not just to serve his country, but to outwit one of history's most ruthless regimes at its own game. Born into privilege in 1912 in what is now Croatia, Duško Popov seemed destined for espionage from his youth. Fluent in 5 languages by adulthood, he moved through European high society with effortless charm, his dashing good looks and quick wit opening doors from Parisian salons to Berlin's most exclusive clubs. When war broke out, these very qualities made him irresistible to both Allied and Axis intelligence services. Recruited first by the Abwehr, German military intelligence, in 1940, Popov immediately offered his services to the British, recognizing the Nazi threat to his homeland. Popov's early missions read like something from a spy thriller. Sent to London to establish a spy network, he instead built a fake one for his British handlers, complete with fictional agents whose salaries he pocketed. His German controllers were so impressed with his work that they promoted him, never suspecting he was meticulously feeding them false information through an elaborate system of coded messages hidden in seemingly innocuous letters. Perhaps his most audacious assignment came in 1941 when the Germans sent him to the United States with orders to gather intelligence on American defenses, including detailed reconnaissance on Pearl Harbor. Popov, seeing the gravity of the situation, attempted to warn the FBI that an attack was imminent. However, J. Edgar Hoover, suspicious of Popov's playboy lifestyle and womanizing, dismissed him outright. This catastrophic intelligence failure would haunt the U.S. as Japan launched its devastating attack months later. While in America, Popov flaunted his wealth, womanizing and gambling in a way that seemed reckless, but was, in fact, a brilliant cover. His extravagant lifestyle allowed him to cultivate high-profile connections while diverting attention from his true purpose. It was during these casino nights in Portugal and the U.S. that he caught the eye of a British naval intelligence officer named Ian Fleming. Decades later, Fleming would mold these experiences into the character of James Bond, modeling 007's suave demeanor, audacity, and even his signature baccarat skills on Popov's real-life exploits. Back in Europe, Popov played a critical role in Operation Fortitude, the elaborate deception campaign designed to mislead the Germans about the true location of the D-Day invasion. Feeding carefully crafted misinformation to his Abwehr contacts, Popov helped convince Hitler's high command that the main Allied landings would take place in the Pas de Calais, not Normandy. This deception proved vital, leading to a delayed German response that ultimately ensured the success of the Normandy invasion. Popov's work throughout the war was nothing short of legendary, yet his contributions remained classified for decades. After the war, he lived a relatively quiet life, though whispers of his adventures followed him. In 1974, he published his memoirs, Spy Counter Spy, confirming much of what had been long rumored in intelligence circles. Though history may know him as a spy, gambler, and womanizer, Duško Popov was, above all, a patriot who risked everything to defeat one of history's greatest threats. His life remains a testament to the power of deception, charisma, and courage in the face of overwhelming danger. The stakes grew even higher in 1941 when Popov was sent to the United States on a mission that would become one of the most haunting missed opportunities of World War II. His German handlers tasked him with establishing a Nazi spy network in America and handed him a detailed questionnaire outlining key military installations. Among the questions were alarmingly specific inquiries about the defenses at Pearl Harbor, including details about fleet positioning, anti-aircraft capabilities, and naval response times. Recognizing the grave significance of this request, Popov immediately alerted both British intelligence and the FBI. He carried with him an urgent warning. The Japanese were planning an attack on Pearl Harbor before the end of the year. But his reception in the United States was far from what he expected. Instead of taking his intelligence seriously, FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover viewed Popov with suspicion, finding his extravagant lifestyle, womanizing, and playboy reputation distasteful. Rather than investigating his claims, the Bureau dismissed him, refusing to pass along the warning to the highest levels of government. In the weeks that followed, Popov could do nothing but watch as events unfolded exactly as he had foreseen. When Japanese bombers devastated Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, killing thousands and thrusting America into the war, he was left with the knowledge that his warnings might have changed the course of history, if only they had been heeded. It was a failure that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Popov's time in America was a whirlwind of danger, deception, and indulgence. Setting himself up in a lavish Manhattan apartment, he effortlessly blended into high society, using his wealth and charisma to move among the elite while secretly carrying out his duties as a double agent. He became a fixture at exclusive clubs where he mingled with politicians, business magnates, and Hollywood starlets, all while funneling carefully curated misinformation back to his unsuspecting German handlers. Every move he made was calculated, every conversation a potential source of intelligence or an opportunity to reinforce his carefully constructed persona as a wealthy international businessman. One of the most infamous episodes of his American escapades occurred in a smoky, dimly lit casino, an event that would later inspire one of the most iconic scenes in literary and cinematic history. Given $50,000 by the Nazis to fund a network of spies, Popov instead decided to put his nerves to the test in a high-stakes baccarat game. With a confidence that bordered on recklessness, he placed an audacious bet, drawing the attention of the entire casino. As the cards were revealed, the room fell silent. Popov had doubled his money in a single hand. Without hesitation, he pocketed half the winnings for himself, a well-earned reward for the risks he had taken, and used the remainder to fabricate an intricate web of non-existent operatives. His fictitious reports, filled with misleading details and outright fabrications, were so convincing that the Abwehr believed they had a well-placed network within the United States, never suspecting that their trusted agent was working against them. Beyond his daring gambling exploits, Popov's time in America was marked by close encounters with both danger and history. Despite his warnings about Pearl Harbor being ignored, he continued to maneuver through the intelligence world with a mixture of cunning and charm. His ability to maintain the illusion of loyalty to Germany while serving British interests was a testament to his skill as a master manipulator. To those who met him, he was simply a wealthy, carefree socialite enjoying the luxuries of wartime America. But beneath the surface, he was playing one of the most dangerous games of the war, one where a single misstep could mean exposure, imprisonment, or execution. His exploits did not go unnoticed. Among those who observed him with fascination was a British naval intelligence officer named Ian Fleming. Fleming, who would later create the legendary James Bond, watched as Popov moved through the world with an effortless blend of sophistication, confidence, and danger. The tuxedo-clad spy, the high-stakes gambler, the irresistible womanizer, all elements of the James Bond character, were drawn directly from the real-life adventures of Duško Popov. Yet, while Bond's missions were carefully crafted fiction, Popov's were terrifyingly real. The threats he faced were not the exaggerated villainy of a Hollywood script, but the ever-present danger of being exposed by the ruthless intelligence agencies of Nazi Germany. Even as he charmed New York's elite and outplayed the Nazis at their own game, Popov remained acutely aware of the peril he lived with every day. He knew that if the Germans ever discovered his duplicity, there would be no daring escape or last-minute rescue, only an unceremonious execution. Yet he thrived on the danger, embracing the high-risk, high-reward nature of his double life. His American adventure was not just a chapter in the war, but a defining moment in espionage history, one that blurred the line between reality and legend, leaving an indelible mark on both wartime intelligence operations and popular culture. Popov's role in the war's most crucial deception campaign was nothing short of extraordinary. As the Allies prepared for the largest amphibious invasion in history, they needed to ensure that German forces remained concentrated away from Normandy. The success of Operation Overlord depended on Hitler believing that the main invasion force would land at Pas de Calais rather than the beaches of Normandy. Few individuals held the trust of German intelligence as completely as Duško Popov, making him an indispensable asset in one of the most elaborate ruses in military history. Tasked with reinforcing this deception, Popov meticulously fed his German handlers a steady stream of fabricated intelligence. Using his established reputation as a reliable Nazi operative, he delivered reports detailing the fictitious 1st U.S. Army Group, FUSAG, a massive but entirely imaginary force under the command of General George S. Patton. He described non-existent divisions assembling in southeastern England, complete with inflated troop numbers, vehicle counts, and detailed logistical movements. Through a network of double agents and intercepted communications, he helped create an illusion so convincing that German high command remained fixated on Calais even after the real invasion had begun. The impact of this deception was profound. Hitler, fully convinced by the intelligence he received from Popov and other Allied double agents, kept 2 elite panzer divisions and over 300,000 troops stationed near Calais, waiting for an assault that would never come. Even as reports from the Normandy front painted a desperate picture for German forces, Hitler refused to redeploy his reserves, believing the main attack was still imminent. This hesitation gave the Allies precious time to establish their beachheads, secure key supply lines, and push inland, ultimately ensuring the success of the D-Day invasion. Yet the risks Popov faced were as immense as his contributions. One misstep, one contradiction, or one suspicious German officer could have exposed his double game, leading to interrogation, torture, and certain death. He navigated these dangers with remarkable composure. During a high-stakes meeting with his German handlers in Lisbon, he encountered a perilous situation that could have led to his unmasking. Another German agent, unaware of Popov's true allegiance, began discussing British naval operations that directly aligned with false intelligence Popov had previously provided. If the Germans connected the dots, his entire cover could unravel in an instant. Recognizing the imminent threat, Popov acted with calculated boldness. Before the conversation could progress further, he abruptly dismissed the agent's claims, asserting they were based on unreliable sources. With unwavering confidence, he challenged the credibility of the information, subtly shifting the suspicion away from himself and onto the other agent. His audacity paid off. The Germans, rather than questioning Popov, turned their ire on the unfortunate operative who had unknowingly jeopardized their most trusted spy. The other agent was reprimanded, and Popov walked away with his cover intact, once again proving his unparalleled ability to manipulate even the most dangerous situations to his advantage. Through deception, daring, and sheer nerve, Popov played a pivotal role in one of the most significant military operations of the 20th century. His efforts did not just shape the outcome of the war, but also set the standard for modern espionage, demonstrating how intelligence, misdirection, and psychological warfare could be just as powerful as armies and weapons. His contributions remained classified for decades, but when the full story of Operation Fortitude was finally revealed, it cemented Duško Popov's legacy as one of the greatest spies in history, a man who, through skill and subterfuge, changed the course of World War II. Popov's romantic entanglements were not just a matter of personal pleasure. They were a crucial part of his tradecraft, often placing him in as much danger as any battlefield encounter. His affairs were not merely indulgences. They were carefully navigated relationships that provided him with vital intelligence while also threatening to expose his true allegiances. One of his most perilous relationships was with a glamorous French actress who, unbeknownst to Popov at first, was working as a Nazi spy. Their whirlwind romance took a dramatic turn when he discovered her true loyalties. Rather than ending the affair or eliminating the threat, Popov masterfully flipped her into a double agent, turning what could have been his downfall into one of his greatest intelligence coups. Under his careful manipulation, she began feeding misinformation to her German handlers while secretly passing Nazi intelligence to the British. Another of his lovers, an Austrian countess, proved to be an invaluable source of military intelligence. A woman of high social standing with access to the German aristocracy, she relayed critical details about troop movements and strategic discussions among high-ranking officers. The information she provided helped shape Allied decisions on key European fronts. Despite the staggering risks, Popov managed to maintain these relationships while keeping his true purpose hidden from both his lovers and his enemies. His ability to manipulate, seduce, and deceive not only demonstrated an extraordinary psychological mastery, but also fascinated his British handlers. They recognized that his unique blend of charm, intelligence, and fearlessness allowed him to extract vital information where traditional espionage methods would have failed. As the war progressed, Popov's influence extended beyond his personal operations. He became a linchpin in Britain's sophisticated deception campaign known as the double-cross system, a vast network of double agents whose fabricated reports misled the Germans at every turn. The success of this operation depended on credibility, and Popov's ability to maintain the complete trust of his German handlers made him one of the most crucial assets in the entire Allied intelligence effort. So valuable was his work that British intelligence went to extraordinary lengths to protect him. When the cover of other agents was compromised, the British would sometimes let them be captured or even executed rather than risk exposing Popov's ongoing operations. His fabricated reports, coded messages, and carefully orchestrated deceptions influenced everything from tactical engagements on the battlefield to grand strategic decisions by Allied command. The false intelligence he supplied altered Nazi expectations about troop movements, invasion plans, and defensive priorities, often leading German forces to deploy resources in completely the wrong locations. Through an intricate combination of seduction, manipulation, and strategic brilliance, Popov did more than just gather intelligence. He actively shaped the course of the war. His actions saved countless Allied lives, disrupted Nazi military operations, and helped pave the way for key victories. Though his name remained largely unknown for decades, his influence on World War II was profound. Today, he is remembered not just as a master spy, but as a man who used his extraordinary gifts to deceive the most formidable military machine in history, ensuring its downfall one false report at a time. After the war, Dusko Popov disappeared from the limelight, his extraordinary exploits hidden behind layers of secrecy and official silence. Unlike many wartime figures who sought recognition, Popov had spent his entire espionage career weaving intricate lies, fabricating identities, and manipulating truth itself, perhaps making it inevitable that his own story would remain obscured for years. He settled in France, retreating into a life of quiet luxury, far removed from the high-stakes world of wartime espionage. Though he had risked his life countless times in service to the Allies, the public knew little of his contributions. His role in shaping the course of World War II remained classified long after hostilities ended, buried in intelligence archives that would not be declassified for decades. In the 1970s, Popov finally broke his silence with his memoir, Spy Counter Spy, offering a tantalizing glimpse into the double life he had led. Yet even in his own account, he remained elusive, his words carefully chosen, his most dangerous missions only hinted at, and the full extent of his role in the British deception campaigns still left shrouded in secrecy. Readers were enthralled by his tales of outwitting the Nazis, but few grasped just how pivotal he had been to Allied intelligence. One of those who did was Ian Fleming. During the war, Fleming had worked in British naval intelligence, operating in the same circles as Popov and witnessing his daring firsthand. When Fleming later turned to fiction, crafting the suave and unshakable James Bond, he borrowed heavily from his old acquaintance. Bond's impeccable dress, his love of fast cars and finer things, his ability to seduce women effortlessly, all were traits lifted directly from Popov's real life. Even Bond's cold-blooded cool under pressure mirrored Popov's legendary ability to remain calm while staring death in the face. Perhaps the most direct inspiration came from one of Popov's most famous stunts. Given a vast sum of Nazi money to establish a spy network in America, Popov instead walked into a high-stakes baccarat game and risked it all in one audacious bet, turning espionage into a gamble in the most literal sense. Fleming later adapted this moment almost verbatim in Casino Royale, where Bond's battle against Le Chiffre at the card table became one of the most iconic scenes in spy literature. Yet, despite inspiring one of the most famous fictional spies of all time, Popov never sought to claim the credit. He did not court celebrity, nor did he chase after the fame that the Bond franchise would bring to Fleming. Having spent so many years living in the shadows, playing multiple roles and mastering deception, he seemed almost indifferent to his own place in history. In many ways, this was fitting. Popov had not been a soldier in the conventional sense, nor had he won battles in the way generals and armies did. His war had been fought in whispers, in coded messages, in the careful art of misleading the enemy while keeping his own masters just as uncertain about his true motives. For a man who had thrived on duplicity, perhaps it was only natural that his own legacy would remain elusive, a true spy to the end, letting his legend fade while the world obsessed over the fictional version of the man he once was. Today, as more files are declassified, historians are recognizing Popov as perhaps the most successful double agent of World War II. His unique combination of charm, intelligence, and sheer audacity allowed him to manipulate the Nazi war machine from within, contributing directly to some of the Allies' most important victories. That he did so while living a life of luxury and danger, worthy of his fictional counterpart, only adds to his legend. In the end, Duško Popov was more than just a spy. He was a master manipulator of truth, a man who turned deception into an art form, and whose wartime exploits proved that sometimes reality really is stranger than fiction. His story remains one of the most fascinating, and largely untold, chapters of World War II history, a testament to how one extraordinary individual, armed with nothing but wit and courage, can change the course of history.